Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today. Shall we start here on the daily? Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the major breakout that is occurring right now on Bitcoin. As you will likely have seen, Bitcoin has finally broken bullish out of this rising wedge that we have been watching for the last couple of weeks. This ascending triangle pattern has in fact broken bullish. This has led to a cascading liquidation event on short positions, and it is the driving force behind Bitcoin rallying up towards our critical zone of resistance between $100,000 and $106,000. Today, we're going to be discussing whether or not Bitcoin can actually smash through 100 to 106, that zone that we've been eyeing, and if it can, then that is where we would be expecting a new all-time high run. On the other hand, if Bitcoin is not able to break through this zone, then that's where the bear market thesis comes back into play, so we're going to analyze exactly how that's going to play out today. We're also going to be discussing, and I think I have a graphic up here for you, we're going to be discussing the fact that the military is moving into position potentially to strike Iran. There are a number of United States carrier strike groups that are moving into the region of the Red Sea. There are all kinds of military movements taking place right now that signify that we may be about to see a major strike on Iran. Obviously, we've been waiting on this to take place for, I think this is about the fifth day. Ever since Saturday, it's become clear that strikes were likely going to happen. It's been taking a while, so we're going to discuss whether or not those are going to occur. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin long term. Is Bitcoin about to go into a major breakout? Is it going to go into a super cycle in 2026? We're going to discuss all of that and more in today's episode of Coffee and Crypto Live. Apologies for being a couple of hours late. My wife had a very important MRA to get done. As you guys know, there is some family history in our family of something called fibromuscular dysplasia, which is a very serious and scary condition. And she was getting some imaging done on that, and the only time they had available was this morning. So we just kind of moved everything, switched everything so that she could get that done. But here we are, very excited to be here. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Rocket Race Official is in chat, said hello. Hypermix Big Biz is in chat. Miguel Rangel, Crypto Surge is in chat. Crypto Surge, Miguel Rangel, Chipper, Crypto Surge is in chat praying for Sarah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your prayers. God hears all of them. And yeah, we're very, very happy about that. My planning document over here still says 25. Do you guys do that every January? I do that every January. My planning document, 11425 CNC planning. I have the whole show map over there and just kind of show it to you real quick. See, I've got the show map right here. You see what I mean? And until a second ago, I had the wrong date. I'm not the only one that does that, right? Everybody else does that. Do you do that for the first, like, I don't know, give or take couple of weeks of the year? Let's go ahead and get that all set back up here so I can see what we're doing. All right. Oops. Man, I'm just breaking everything. You guys are getting a real behind-the-scenes look today. All right, without much further ado, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. The very first thing that we want to cover today is none other than CoinMarketCap. As you can see, CoinMarketCap is giving us a pretty great overview of what Bitcoin is doing today. Bitcoin is up 6.32% over the last 7 days, up 4% over the last 24 hours. A major rally has been taking place, and this is obviously very exciting for Bitcoin as we have been trading either to the downside or sideways for the better part of the last 2 months. So seeing some kind of bounce on Bitcoin is obviously extremely encouraging. Whether or not that is going to sustain now becomes the question. Can Bitcoin actually sustain its upward momentum and smash through these overhead levels of resistance or not? That is where that K-shaped decision point comes into play that we'll be discussing on the chart in just a moment. Of course, this has led to a large amount of movement on altcoins as well. Ethereum is up 5% in the last 24 hours, outpacing Bitcoin. Tether is sideways. I'm sorry, I've been making that joke for almost a decade. I just can't help myself. Tether is sideways right now, and but of course, that's basically the only cryptocurrency that is sideways. You can see the rest of the coins over here on the right-hand side are pretty much up in the last 7 days. We've got a plus 1.82% 7-day gain on Tron, plus 1% gain, 7-day gain on Dogecoin, plus 3.31% gain on Cardano. So a little bit of relief for people that have been in the altcoins. There have been some very interesting charts that have been posted by Ben Cohen. As you guys know, he's a big guy in the space. Love his content. And one of them that I want to bring to your attention that I think has really been impacting you altcoin holders, because I want to talk about you altcoin holders, everybody who loves those altcoins. One of the things that's really been impacting the altcoin game lately is this. Let's see if I can find his charts on this. Let's see, right here. New followers to various layer 1s on X are nowhere near where they were in 2021. You can see there is a serious decline in interest across almost every single one of these metrics that he's tracking over here. Here's the 30-day moving average of new followers to various crypto accounts on Twitter X. As you can see, the mania, and I know most of the people on this list, the mania is nowhere near what it was. And typically, the people that are coming into the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency space, they do something where they look at CoinMarketCap and they say, I can't afford a whole Bitcoin. That's $97,000. It's a little bit like they go into the stock market and they say, I can't afford to buy a share of Berkshire Hathaway. It's $500,000. I can't afford to buy a whole Bitcoin. And even after 16 years of Bitcoin's existence, people still don't understand that you can buy fractional Bitcoin. And even when they do understand that you can buy fractional pieces of a Bitcoin, then they don't want to because they want to own a whole coin. So they come looking down the coin. They come looking down CoinMarketCap for other altcoins. As people become more and more invested in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I found a lot of them end up transitioning a lot more of their wealth towards Bitcoin. And this is a big part of the reason why you're seeing an issue with the altcoins where they've been down and alt season's been delayed. There's not a lot of fresh meat to come in here and eat all these little altcoins. And so most of the gains that we are seeing in the alt space are consolidated up here in the top 10 because there are some genuinely very good projects in the top 10. And of course, we do see that Monero is exploding right now. Monero is up at $762. Even just refreshing the screen went up $10. Absolutely going parabolic. As you can see over the last 24 hours, has completely exploded. Gone completely parabolic. This is not particularly surprising. As you guys know, we saw a major pop-off on Zcash as well. That has, for the most part, subsided at this point because of the controversy around the development team leaving. But Zcash was one of these first major privacy coins to just go completely parabolic. Now we are seeing the exact same thing taking place on Monero, on XMR, which is arguably a much better privacy coin than Zcash. It is interesting to me that after doing this for almost 10 years, there's still not major legislation against the privacy coins. I am happy about that. I don't want there to be. And I think the privacy coins are fantastic projects, although I am surprised that there's not more government scrutiny against them, considering you could theoretically use them to launder money. I don't think that's an issue. I think that they're a fantastic project, and I've always thought that they're actually one of the best things that cryptocurrency has ever come up with, because ultimately people are going to try and launder money through dollars anyway. So that's where I think that the money laundering argument falls apart. I'm just surprised there hasn't been more government pushback on them. That said, I am very happy to see Monero exploding like this, and it is not surprising to me. The reason that's not surprising to me is because Monero and many of the other privacy coins, they do something that Bitcoin cannot do. They give privacy. In other words, your transactions are private. On Bitcoin, they are not private. They are pseudonymous. You can see the transaction. You just don't know who the transaction belongs to. On Monero, it's not like that. It's an actual privacy coin. So it's not surprising to me at all that it's having its moment in the sun, and this could be an early sign that an alt season is coming. Right now, what we're seeing take place with Monero rallying is that this is probably more so people that are more so long-term veterans in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that have started this run-up. Now, people that are buying up here right now, probably not veterans because they're buying the top. The RSI could not possibly be more overbought. If we looked at Monero over here, then what we're probably going to find is that XMR is most likely Yeah, right here. It's at 89 on his daily chart, RSI. So this is probably not veterans buying the top up here, but it's not surprising to me at all that this is a market that has been dramatically accumulated over the last few months. As once again, I said, Bitcoin obviously has the primary use case for cryptographic technology, but privacy coins also carry a very, very real, very serious use case. So very excited to see Monero doing so well. Big shout out to anybody who's holding there. I will give you a piece of advice. If you are in Monero, it is a good idea to consider taking some profits. Yes, I'm perfectly comfortable calling that advice. Taking profits is advice that I will more than happily tell anybody. When you are up that dramatically, it's a good idea to skim some profits. You're not going to see Monero moonshot like this and then just absolutely trade sideways. You don't have to get rid of all of it, but if you are holding some XMR, it's a good idea to take some profits at all-time high. So I just want to encourage you to do that because at the end of the day, you don't make money until you sell. So if you are holding some XMR, it is not a bad thing at all to go ahead and take some profits off the table. Now, we're about to jump into some Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical analysis, but first I do want to give you a big reminder that the sale on Phemex has really kicked off, and essentially what this is that when you sign up for Phemex and deposit and trade $100, we are going to give you the course 3-5A Mastery absolutely for free. So I want to go ahead and bring that up. What you're going to find in the 3-5A Mastery course is that we are giving you a very powerful education in how to do trading. This is nitty gritty. It's very in depth, teaching you exactly how to use something called the 3-5A trading strategy that we personally use here at McAfee Media when we are doing our trading. We use multiple strategies, but this is one of the ones that we use, and this course is absolutely incredible. We have been teaching you guys how to do Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical analysis and trading for years. This is our first flagship trading course, and it is worth $597. We could very easily sell it for $597, and we would sell it out so fast. We'd sell it like hotcakes, but I want to give it away for free for a limited time only. It's not going to last long. For a limited time only, I want to give it away for free. And the way that you're going to get it for free is by signing up for Phemex and depositing and trading $100. Basically, you signing up for Phemex acts as your scholarship. So if you sign up for Phemex and start trading on Phemex, you can't just sign up and not trade. You got to sign up and trade. If you sign up and trade on Phemex, we will give you the 3-5A Mastery course for free. But I am not promising that this deal is going to last long. In fact, it probably won't. So if you have not already, make sure to sign up for Phemex. It is one of the best, hands down, cryptocurrency exchanges in the entire game that helps you to have an excellent experience while trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. There's a lot of money to be made extracting wealth out of the markets, but you need a good exchange and you need a good course to teach you exactly how to do it. So make sure you sign up for 3-5A Mastery. The way you're going to do that is by going to the link in the description box down below, signing up for Phemex under us, and getting started today. All right, let's jump in. Let's dive right on in, rather, to some Bitcoin technical analysis. On the hourly chart, we can see that Bitcoin is in the middle of breaking bullish, as we expected, out of this ascending triangle pattern. We've been discussing for weeks about how Bitcoin is basically likely in a very similar formation to what we see in 3-5A Mastery. It's very funny that this course is coming out right when this is actually one of the most important patterns in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency right now. And what we are witnessing right now is that there is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movement on Bitcoin. And then what we may be experiencing right now is an A, B, C movement on Bitcoin. Possibly not. But what we need to understand is that it was always extremely likely that Bitcoin was going to rally up towards about $100,000. And then from that point in time, we're going to make a decision. Are we going to go down into the depths of the bear market, down around 60 to 70,000? Or will Bitcoin break through $100,000 to $106,000 and rally? A lot of people have been saying, Jeb, you're flip-flopping. Jeb, you're flip-flopping. When we talk about these bear market lows, what we are saying is that if we reject at 100,000, that would be the price target. However, short term, we have been calling for $100,000 ever since we bottomed out at 80. We've been consistently saying that a relief rally up towards $100,000 and then a decision is going to have to be made. That is the exact same call that we have made every single day for the last 2 months that we've been here. And that is exactly what we still anticipate is going to occur. Our original call on October the 13th was that Bitcoin would drop back down to $94,000. As soon as we did an overside-underside test of $94,000, we then predicted that Bitcoin would drop back down to $75 to $80, which it did. Immediately following that bottom down towards $80,000, we predicted that a rally up towards $100,000 would occur as a relief rally. And then from that point in time, if we managed to break through the resistance, we'd go into super cycle. If not, we'd go into bear market. This is all publicly documented. You're more than welcome to use your favorite artificial intelligence to verify everything I just said. These are the calls that we've been making, and we are continuing to make them today because they are still true. The truth is, Bitcoin needed a relief rally to $100,000 because the people selling down here are the weak hands, the people that bought too much, the people that simply could not hold on any longer. And the people that are selling, the time that we've spent down here under $100,000 has presented as a phenomenal investment opportunity and a phenomenal investment zone for the long-term thinking Bitcoin investor. And so what we are witnessing right now is a breakout on the hourly chart above this very critical juncture, this very critical level of support, which was sitting here at $95,000. Bitcoin had previously rallied up to and tested this level multiple times. As we've talked about on the channel for the last several weeks, a cup and handle formation was being formed. We also have discussed briefly about how this actually also creates an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and that inverse head and shoulders pattern gives us a price target, as you can see, up towards about 105,000. So on the lower end, Bitcoin has been targeting for the last month about 100,000. And it is possible that we could actually target somewhat higher. It is possible that Bitcoin could rally up above $100,000. And really the question that we have to ask ourselves is, if we actually break above $100,000 for the short term, is that just going to be an acceleration pad where Bitcoin hits above 100K and it just absolutely explodes? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. If Bitcoin does manage to peak its head above 100, is the FOMO just going to kick in and Bitcoin's going to moonshot, or are bear market fears going to kick in and Bitcoin's going to crash? I am very comfortable telling you when I'm extremely confident that one thing is going to happen or another. I have been extremely confident that Bitcoin was going to return back to 100,000 for the better part of the last 2 months since the end of November. That said, I have not been confident, and I still remain unconfident as to what Bitcoin is going to do when we get there. I'm very confident that we're going to get to 100,000. What we're going to do is anybody's guess, and I really could not tell you left from right, up from down, what's going to happen at that point in time. But what I can do is I can help you to be prepared in both scenarios. So let's go ahead and do that. In all likelihood, Bitcoin is going to rally to 100,000, and what I want to do is I want to prepare you for what to do in both events. Number one, if you want to be prepared for Bitcoin breaking 100,000, then what you ought to do is consider investing in Bitcoin below $100,000. Because similarly to the United States stock market, the longer that you hold Bitcoin, the more likely it is that you are going to be in profit. It is an extremely rare event that someone holds Bitcoin for more than 5 years and is not in profit. By the way, is not in enormous profit on those early investments. A sub $100,000 entry is going to be a sight to behold at some point in the future, because Bitcoin is going to be trading at $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. And I'm very confident that you're going to see those kind of prices happen at some point within the next 5 to 7 years. And so any investment below $100,000, in my opinion, now this is not financial advice because I cannot predict the future. I can absolutely 100% give you the financial advice that it's a good idea to take profits. I will never give you financial advice to buy because markets are uncertain, right? That said, statistically, probabilistically, the likelihood is that putting a portion of your portfolio, ideally as much as possible, into Bitcoin to focus on growth is an extreme way to supercharge the growth of your portfolio. I have no issue with you owning stocks. I have no issue with you owning VOO or SPY or QQQ or QQQI or SPYI or JEPG, all these different stocks and indices. I am a big fan, but it is an incredibly important thing to put some investment in Bitcoin as well. And I maintain a very large portion of our investment portfolio in Bitcoin because I firmly believe in it. I've always maintained Bitcoin as my single largest core exposure, and it will probably remain that way for possibly forever. And so that's why I'm interested in this idea. So if we go up here to 100,000, it's not a bad idea to buy at 96. Why? Well, if Bitcoin breaks out, great. If Bitcoin drops, great. You buy lower. You can lower your average cost basis. But once you lock in that buy, so long as you have an emergency fund and you have your high income and you have skill sets that are marketable in the 21st century with the artificial intelligence economy that's coming, you have good connections, you have good health, all of that, and you're in good shape, then by all means, investing in Bitcoin is a phenomenal idea because it's going to give you that long-term growth trajectory that you need to take your portfolio off. So let's look at those two scenarios. Either one, Bitcoin rallies up here to the 0.5 on this Fibonacci retracement, and that just so happens to coincide with the 50 weekly simple moving average, as you can see right here. That's exactly where the 50 is. Either we hit 100 and reject, in which case Bitcoin would likely fall back down to this uptrending level of support right here before another test. So this is one scenario. Bitcoin could fall back down to this level and do something like this, or it could fall back down to this level and do something like this. What this would effectively do is it would turn $95,000 into a critical support zone, and also this uptrending level of support is critical support zone. We would not be doing an overside-underside test on this uptrend. This uptrend would simply be helping to start the movement to the upside, but this level of resistance, which is now support actually at 95, could end up becoming that overside underside test. We've talked at length about the idea of the underside overside test. Very simple setup that you see happen, which signifies a trend, right? You have this level, and we test it from the bottom as resistance, and we test it from the top as support. And when you start looking, you see these everywhere, right? We saw it right here. There's the overside underside test of 106,000. That was pointing us to the downside. When you draw a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Elliott wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, that's not okay. For the sake of my sanity, I have to fix this so it's actually meeting the Elliott wave rules. When you build a Elliott wave structure like this, you end up connecting the 1 and the 4, and it's an overside underside test, right? It's basically the way you define a trend. So if Bitcoin does end up hitting 100,000, then a short-term correction down to 95 is very likely, and that is probably what would end up sending us up towards 106,000, because this would actually create our classic Elliott wave structure. We could argue that this level right here is the 1 wave, this was the 2 wave, that we're currently in the 3 wave, that will hit a high up here somewhere, fall back, and then what we'll end up doing is we will draw a line that connects the top of the 1 wave and the bottom of the 4 wave. So for example, either Bitcoin could drop down here to $95,000. Well, actually, that's about as low as it could go because the 4 wave can't enter the 1 wave for it to be Elliott wave. So I take that back. We would actually have to see Bitcoin bounce here off of the level at 95. So if we do hit 100, there is a very real and very strong possibility that Bitcoin could have a healthy correction back down to 95. And if so, that's where that 5 wave would be coming in. And this is not exactly 3-5A. It's actually just the 5 wave trade, which is a slightly different variation on the 3-5A trade. But you can trade that 5 wave. It's a little bit more risky, but you can trade it, right? So if we do drop back down here, get a strong test at 95 as support, in all likelihood, you're going to see Bitcoin move up to its next major level, which, as we talked about, would be 106,000. So if we do see Bitcoin rallying up to 100,000 and we reject, be on the lookout for 95,000 to hold, because if Bitcoin does hold at 95,000 and it doesn't drop here below the top of the 1 wave, then in all likelihood, Bitcoin is likely going to end up breaking to the upside, unless something major takes place from the fundamental side of things, which is something that is a real concern right now with war in the Middle East brewing. So in all, it's very, very important, in my opinion, to keep a watch on this, pay very close attention to this breakout, and if we do see that rejection off of 100 and that fall back down to 95, it actually may end up being a good place to put a long trade, right? So a long position right here, covered by this uptrend, and then giving us resistance up here. Not a bad idea. You just might have to be very careful with that stop loss. Something like this, we don't know yet because we don't know, when exactly this is going to take place, if it's going to take place, etc. But this is the kind of thing that we may end up being able to build. It obviously isn't there just yet. Now, one thing I do also want to mention, just want to check, there is a small CME futures gap. And this is the last thing we're going to mention in this segment before we move on, but I do want you to know, because it's very important, there's a CME futures gap down here between 88,000 and 88,500. So that could unravel all of this. So just keep that in mind, that there is that CME futures gap down there that will probably have to get filled at some point in time. There are other CME futures gaps way back in the past that have not been filled, but just keep in mind that that's there. There's a possibility that it doesn't get filled, but generally speaking, normally those do actually get filled. So all of that to say, $100,000 is likely. From there, If we break out, we break out, and then we're probably going to go absolutely parabolic. If we hit 100,000 and we break out immediately, that's where you're probably seeing an all-time high run. If we hit 100,000, reject down to 95, and then break up to 0.618, up here at 106, that's where it may take a little bit longer for us to get some momentum. All right, now let's talk a little bit about the issue of Iran. This is extremely important. Whenever I cover things that are not strictly charts, I like to preface by explaining how this impacts your Bitcoin portfolio because I want to do my very best to stay on topic here. What we are witnessing right now, the revolution that is taking place in Iran, is probably the single largest geopolitical event of the century. Over 20,000 seem to have lost their lives at this point to the brutality of the Iranian Islamic Republic. And Trump seems to be waffling a little bit. There was a line in the sand, a red line that was drawn on Friday, where Trump said if they start shooting protesters, they're locked and loaded, and more or less there's going to be hell to pay. That was 5 days ago. Sorry, that was 6 days. Yes, that was 5 days ago, Friday. Nothing has taken place just yet. That said, there are a great number of reports coming out that a strike on the Iranian Republic is likely to be taking place at some point within the next 24 hours. For example, I'm just trying to see if I can find a picture of this. For example, the USS Nimitz class carrier, the George Herbert Walker Bush carrier, is on its way into the Red Sea right now. We also have, there's another strike group that is on its way potentially to the Middle East. There have been a great number of movements coming from the United States military. For example, Al Udeid Air Force Base. You know, I think the best thing that we can do here is just pull up Google Maps. So since we're doing geopolitics, Al Udeid Air Force Base in UAE is Udeid Air Force Base in Qatar, not UAE. I'm sorry. It has been evacuated. This is one of the largest bases in the Middle East for the United States of America. As you can see, it is a sprawling and enormous compound. This has, for the most part, been evacuated, as this would likely be a major target of Iran. Iran is right here, this massive nation. When you think about the Middle East, you think about all of this area. Iran makes up at least half of the surface area of the traditional Middle East, unless you consider Saudi Arabia to be Middle East, in which case it'd be about half. But this is absolutely, along with Saudi Arabia, one of the two largest nations in the Middle East. Over 90 million people live here. Enormous protests are going on. Millions of people are in the streets of Tehran right now, and all of the other major cities. What's happening there is brutal, and I'm going to keep it brief because I want to make sure that we stay on topic here. But essentially, first and foremost, be praying for the people of Iran. What's taking place is an absolute genocide. It's a humanitarian crisis on an enormous scale. And it is absolutely tragic. It brings tears to my eyes to know what's going on there. And it's a very hard thing to read about. The other thing that I want you to understand is the impact that this could have on your portfolio, it seems a little bit insensitive, right? It seems a little bit insensitive to talk about our portfolio, but I mean, that is what we're here for. If Trump does, and Trump probably will, order a series of major strikes on Iran at some point within the next few hours to days, that could cause an immediate sell-off on Bitcoin and stocks that would probably get bought back up. But you do just need to keep in mind that we could end up seeing a short-term sell-off that could, knock you out of a trade. So just be careful. Keep a weather eye on X. If something takes place, just be aware of it as early as possible. I will be tweeting about things if something happens, and you'll be able to see it from my Twitter account at CryptoJeb. So just keep all that in mind, that this is a major volatility event that is likely going to be happening at some point within the next few days. All right, let's read a little bit of chat, and then we're going to keep it moving here. Hard rejection at 100K. Dead cat bounce will be over. Yes, if we do reject at 100K, that's where a full-on bear market is likely going to be taking place. Metaplan is mooning. Took some profits. Trend is your friend. The Clarity Act will fail spectacularly. Metaplanet is greater than all cryptos except BTC. I will tell you what, I don't classify myself as a Bitcoin maxi, but I'm very, very, very heavily invested in Bitcoin. For the most part, that is where the vast majority of my portfolio is. Nice to see you on a live. Good to see you as well, Grand Roofing Incorporated. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Hope you're doing well, man. Very good to see you. Very good to see you. Stay on crypto. That's what we're doing. But you got to understand that this is the single largest news event in the world right now. I generally don't bring up geopolitics or even politics unless it's going to impact your portfolio, because ultimately we are here to grow your portfolio. I'm here to make you money, man. I'm here to help you get rich. That's my goal. I want to help you get rich while and honor God while you're doing it. But you need to know that if a war does break out, in all likelihood, it's going to cause a major correction. What time are the live streams now? This one is late. We had a pretty important doctor's appointment that couldn't be missed this morning. My wife had to have a magnetic resonance angiogram on her chest, her heart specifically. We don't know exactly. We still don't know exactly what's going on with her health. So it's something that we need to figure out. But that is why we are late on the stream today. We're shooting for a 10 a.m. stream, but we may end up moving that either half an hour forward or half an hour back, but about 10 o'clock is where we're looking for right now. You're on point, Jeb. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. We're about to jump right back on into it. I want to talk about the long term. We've got a lot of very important things that we need to cover from the long term with the limited time that we have here left. But before we do, I do want to let you know that today's video is also brought to you in part by NordVPN. If you guys have not already signed up for NordVPN, you absolutely should, and there's a very important reason why you should. The reason is that when you're browsing online, if you do not protect yourself, you are going to lose money. Hackers and thieves are out to get you. There are evil people all around the world, and they're coming for you. They want to steal your wealth. They want to steal your social security number. Yeah, Jeb, you're fear-mongering. I know. That's exactly what I'm doing. You should be afraid. There are people trying to hurt you, right? There are people that are trying to steal from you. There are people that are trying to hurt you. There are people that are trying to get into your search traffic, see what you're looking up, see when you type in your address into Google, where do you live? See when you put your credit card information into Amazon, see where your credit card information is so they can steal it. Your password when you log into Coinbase or Kraken or Phemex or whatever, they are trying to steal from you. I don't know how much more simple I can make it. There are thieves that are trying to steal from you. One of the best ways to hide from a thief is to put on a cloaking device. If you're invisible, they won't even know you're there. That's what NordVPN does. It's your cloaking device that you put on when you're browsing online. And when you use NordVPN as a cloaking device, they can't see you. Not only does NordVPN protect you if they try and attack you, NordVPN also makes you invisible by rerouting your search traffic in such a way that it's not visible to criminals, which is why people all around the world for almost 15 years have been giving just a tiny amount of money, almost like an insurance premium to keep themselves safe, to NordVPN to protect them. And I highly recommend that you use the Plus plan here. For $105 for 28 months, you will get access to NordVPN. You get the password manager and the breach scanner. You get the secure, fast VPN. Doesn't really slow down your internet all that much, hardly at all. You barely even notice it. And it will keep you invisible and keep you safe while browsing online, especially if you connect to public Wi-Fi or all kinds of different things that can take place. If you have that tech-savvy little cousin or whatever that comes over to your house and is trying to hack you. When I was in high school, there was a guy that put a keylogger on our science teacher, Miss Sheffield's computer, and he used the keylogger to get her password, logged into the logged into the software in our school and like hacked the school records. It was crazy. People that understand how to use computers can do all kinds of crazy stuff if you let them into your software, into your computer. So NordVPN is going to help keep you safe by keeping you private while you browse online. So make sure to go to nordvpn.com/Jeb, get the Plus plan here, get those 4 extra free months for only $105. That costs almost nothing. You're also going to get a password manager that is going to save you so much hassle. That's going to pay for itself just right there. This is a force multiplier that's going to keep you safe. It's going to keep you efficient, and it will absolutely make its money back by protecting you and by helping you to be more efficient. So make sure to sign up for NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/Jeb. But without much further ado, let's continue. I want to talk a little bit about the long term. Okay, we've talked about the way that Bitcoin could rally up to $100,000 to $106,000. Now I want to talk about why those levels are important and why we should be looking out for them. And I also want to clear up the confusion because people keep saying, Jeb, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong with my messaging. I hope maybe some of you guys in chat can help me to understand, because I in no way want to mislead you or make this confusing. But a lot of people are like, Jeb, you're flip-flopping. You're saying Bitcoin's going to 100, but then the other day you're saying it's going to 55. Which is it? I invite you to help me understand how to explain this in a better way so that we don't have any confusion. Bitcoin is in an A, B, C correction. against the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What that means is that either we follow this pattern, and after we hit the end of the B wave, we go through the C wave down to 55 to 70, which are our price targets, or Bitcoin doesn't do that, and it manages to break through this zone because of all of the hype, and Bitcoin rallies dramatically up toward all-time high. Those are really our two different scenarios. And right now, we are looking at Bitcoin being in the B wave against that primary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 uptrend. And so what we are witnessing right now is that Bitcoin is moving very rapidly toward a major decision point. Do we reject here at this zone, the 0.618 to the 0.5, and fall over, or does Bitcoin break through it and invalidate the 3.5A? This is actually the exact same pattern that we talk about in 3.5A Mastery. In 3.5A Mastery, I give you no fewer than 15 different examples of the Elliott Wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC setup. And what we look for in the Elliott Wave setup, the 3.5A setup, is we look for this exact zone between 0.5 and 0.618. And in fact, if we look at the Elliott Wave zone that is in that screenshot on 3.5A Mastery, it's right here back in September of 2025. And what you'll notice when you draw the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we just kind of recreate that screenshot from 3.5A, what you end up seeing is that the ABC is right here, right? And when you draw a Fibonacci retracement off of the A wave, now again, this is upside down compared to the one that we're in right now because this is an uptrend, right? The B wave tops out of the 0.382. If it had have gone past the 0.618, if it had have dropped down here, for example, if we had have done this number right here, the C wave probably doesn't happen and Bitcoin probably continues to the downside and that B wave just extends further. But the fact that we ended up bottoming here, where we did, means that we ended up going lower. And so when you invert that and you look at Bitcoin from the longer term perspective on the daily chart, we're witnessing the exact same thing take place in the inverse right now. What we need to see is whether or not Bitcoin is going to end up staying below 0.618, that's 106,000, because if so, that means the ABC wave structure is intact and we would likely be expecting a new low sub 80,000. This is also important because although a great number of short liquidations have been triggered, there are still a large number of short liquidations well above 106,000. Many people that are in shorts right now have placed themselves in their short in such a way that they're protected even if Bitcoin does briefly go up to $105,000 to $106,000. And this is something that you see right here. Many of these short liquidations are sitting up here at 108. That's very important. And the reason that that's so important is because that's this high right over here at 106. If Bitcoin is not able to conclusively break above 106, then that's where that correction would likely end up coming into play. So this is the decision that we have to make. So let's talk a little bit about the longer term perspective here. Bitcoin is very likely to continue an uptrend to at least $100,000 right now. As you'll remember yesterday, we discussed this chart, which is where we referenced the breakout characteristics of the RSI. When we break above that 14, we end up seeing this major rally right here, as you can see. At this current moment, we're seeing the exact same thing take place. We're seeing that breakthrough on the RSI. That does indicate that a strong bounce is underway and that Bitcoin very well may end up moving aggressively to the upside very soon. And so what this indicates to us is that we should be looking for that break up towards 100,000. Now, if we do reject from here, then that's where we have to start looking at our trend-based Fibonacci extension and other levels of support and resistance to figure out where Bitcoin would move to. As you can see here, if we look on the Fibonacci's, the 1.618 sits down here at 52,000. Now, I don't think that's going to take place. And the reason that we're not going to use the 1.618 for our Fibonacci extension on the ABC is simply because although this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC structure is intact, we do also have to deal with reality, right? It's unlikely, in my opinion, that Bitcoin's going to drop that low. It's unlikely, in my opinion, that Bitcoin's going to drop all the way back down to $52,000, even in the depths of a bear market. In history, we've typically dropped back down to this level of support, this being the 100 weekly, the 200 weekly moving average. And it's currently sitting at $52,000. And by the time we got down there, if we did actually go down there, it would take potentially by the time we get down there, this level might be up at 60 right? So if we dropped below it, $50,000 is a possibility, but that's a very low possibility, and I don't exactly think that's going to happen. What I think would probably be more likely to happen is that if we do end up rejecting at 100,000, then you end up seeing a repeat of what happened in the last bear market, because in the last bull market, bear market structure, we had the exact same formation play out. This is history rhyming. We had the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jeb, why didn't you count this as the bottom of the 2 wave? The reason I didn't count that as the bottom of the 2 wave is that this correction only happened because of COVID. So that's not really fair to consider that. When we saw the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we then saw the A, B, C, and wouldn't you know it, the C wave went where? It went exactly to, as we can see here, it did not go to the 1.618, which is of note. What happened is that the C wave went down to the top of the previous bull market. Sorry, let's frame that better. It went down to the top of the previous bull market. At the bottom of the C wave, we dropped back down here briefly to 18,000. We really bounced quite a bit here at 20,000. The only reason that we dropped it down here to 15,000 was because of the collapse of FTX, right? And so what we are seeing at this point in time is that there is a very high possibility, very high probability that Bitcoin, if it rejects off of if Bitcoin rejects off of 100,000, then we may end up seeing the exact same thing take place, where Bitcoin could drop back down here towards 65,000. It could drop back down here towards 74,000. Is that going to happen? I don't know. I really don't. And no one can tell you for sure whether something like that's going to happen or not. I don't know. What I would love to see happen is I'd love to see Bitcoin just have this steady march higher forever. I'd love that. I'd love for us to be in a super cycle now and Bitcoin doesn't go down there. But if it does, I want to be ready for that. And so the way that I want to be ready for that is I want to be ready to invest if we drop down to those levels. So are we going to drop back down to $50,000 to $70,000? Not necessarily. We don't know. But what will give us a great deal more confidence about whether or not we're going to drop down to lower bear market levels is whether or not Bitcoin can break through that critical zone between 100 and 106,000. 100,000 and 106,000 are both individually very important levels, but when you put them together, they craft a zone. And so what I want you to walk away from this stream knowing is that over the next few weeks, this zone of between $100,000 to $106,000 is absolutely critical. You're going to need to pay very close attention to how Bitcoin operates within this zone. If we manage to get up here in the first place, and especially if we reject out of it, we need to pay very close attention because that's going to have a huge impact. Now, last thing I want to mention here is that if Bitcoin does reject here at 97,000, that's where I'm going to give you an extremely high probability that we're going into a very deep bear market. And the reason for that is that this is actually one of our criteria that we talk about in 3.5A Mastery. When we talk about trading the 3.5A strategy in this video down here, we talk about the actual trading of the 3.5A, right? We talk about the structure of the trade setup, right? And so what we end up looking at, in fact, you can kind of see us talking about this right in this section right here. We talk about how quality of a setup the 3.5A is. And the level of quality is dictated by certain things such as the Fibonacci levels. And so, for example, when we're looking at the 1 hourly chart and we look at that previous chart that I showed you a few minutes ago, we saw that Bitcoin was so bullish here on the C wave, and the C wave just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. It ran. It did that because we rejected on the 0.382. Should be pretty easy to see right there. When Bitcoin, not rejected, I'm sorry, bounced on the 0.382 off of the A wave, right? We got our A, B, C wave. When we bounced off the 0.382, guess what happened? Because of that high bounce, that gave Bitcoin the confidence to run hard, right? And so that's something that we need to pay very close attention to. On top of that, we also saw this ray connecting these levels, right? We had our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? When we connect the top of the 1 wave and the top of the 4 wave, as you learn in 3.5A Mastery, it creates this trend line, and guess where Bitcoin bounced? Bounced right there on that trend line. By the way, that also created an inverse head and shoulders pattern. It was just a beautiful setup, which is why we chose this trade of like the 15 different trades that we had going on here as the actual screenshot for the program, because it worked out perfectly. And so what we can learn from that is that we are basically looking at something very similar taking place right now. If you draw a trend line here between 1 and 4, it's not a steep enough trend line for us to consider it the level that we would reject off of. So for example, sometimes you end up seeing this kind of number happen, right? And then you reject right here. That's not what's going to happen, but what that could end up serving as the 1 to 4 trend line. The 1 to 4 trend line could end up serving in this case as the bottom of the C wave, right? It could end up serving as the bottom of the C wave, and then you traditionally think head and shoulders pattern means we're going lower. Maybe not. Maybe Bitcoin's so overbought, there's so much buying pressure down there if we get to 75 that it doesn't end up playing out that way, even though you would think it would, and then you invalidate the head and shoulders pattern. That can't happen. But the point here is that when you look at this A wave right here, just recall on the other trade that we showed you right here, we rejected off of the 0.382, and then you had a massive C wave. So if we reject right here on the 0.382, which is at like $98,000, even sub 100, on the log chart, that's where you might end up seeing a pretty large C wave. So all in all, before we wrap it out here, you need to be very aware of the possibility of a dead cat bounce, and you need to be ready to take advantage of that if one does occur. All right. Now, I want to give you a real quick reminder. Phemex is a way that you can get access to a bunch of really cool free stuff right now. When you sign up for Phemex and you deposit and trade at least $100, you are going to get access to the 358 Mastery Trading Program for free. This is a $600 value. You're going to get it for free because you signed up for Phemex and deposited and traded $100. So sign up for Phemex, get trading, but you have to use our link. And after you've done that, we will give you 358 Mastery for free. We can't do this for too long because, hey, it's an extremely valuable product. We can't just give it away for free. So if you are interested in learning how to trade, this is a limited time only offer that will help you to learn how to trade Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies profitably. So if you have not already, make sure to sign up for Phemex so that you can get into 358 for free. Think this is a dead cat bounce? Once the pig is fat enough, they rug pull? Very possible. And you need to be on the lookout for that. I don't want you to get caught with your pants down if Bitcoin does drop here. And I'm getting a lot of hate for being, oh, Jeb the bear. You know, some seasons I'm Jeb the perma bull. Oh my gosh, he's always bullish. Some seasons it's, oh, this guy's a perma bear. What does he know? At the end of the day, the charts speak for themselves. We have the evidence. We have the data. You're welcome to do with it whatever you please. But what I am going to tell you is this. You need to be very careful because Bitcoin is highly volatile. And if you want to end up becoming a winning trader and a winning investor, what you have to do is you have to use Bitcoin's volatility to your advantage, which means you have to stop allowing Bitcoin's volatility to catch you with your pants down. You need to make sure you have cash. You need to make sure you have cash flow. You need to make sure that you are diversified. You need to make sure that you are in a position to buy and hold Bitcoin dips for the ultra long term. And the way you do that is with a strong foundation of personal finance. So don't neglect that either. I really appreciate all of you for being here. Make sure to check out Phemex. Make sure to check out NordVPN. I love you so much. Make sure to follow us on CryptoJeb. Make sure to follow us on X at CryptoJeb. If you enjoyed today's stream, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps the channel tremendously. Share the content with somebody that you think would find it valuable. And before I go, I love you so much. And I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.